We're going to be hosting a webinar on the Share Practices group page at 7 p.m. Eastern on June 17th for Matt's group coaching program and also for my own group coaching that will be offered to dental students. And you want to learn more about it, really hope to see you guys there, 7 p.m. Eastern on June 17th, the Share Practices group page. I'm super excited, and I want to hear from you all. All right, so this episode, I hope you guys are really going to love. I personally really enjoyed getting into it. So what I did was, we're kind of on the heels of some interviews with Suzanne talking about coaching and some of the impact that that's had on me personally. And so I thought it appropriate to bring on Matt, who has done his own group coaching programs. He's going to come on and talk about that a little bit. But later on, if you stick around, it's going to be really interesting. Matt's actually going to kind of turn things on me and start asking me about a little something that I have in store. So listen out for it to learn more details. Okay, and we are back with the Pursuit of Ownership. I am here with Matt Guarino. He is here to talk about his group coaching program and a little bit more about how that can benefit our audience. So Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me again, Tyler. I'm back at work now. Big, exciting news. Finally, someone got in the pockets of the governor and kind of puppet him a little bit, move some strings. So that's exciting. But I'm honestly more excited to talk about our two group coaching offerings that we are coming in July. One for students, one for pre-owners. Both of us are leading those groups. So I think we're going to have a fun conversation about all the features and what people can expect.
Yeah, absolutely, man. On the note of the whole COVID crisis, I definitely don't want to get into it too far. I think we've covered our tracks there, but this whole period of time has given us both a whole lot to work with in terms of building something more for Share Practices. And I know you've already had this group coaching offering. It's gone swimmingly. I've been involved with that in the past. But to be able to kind of come into the fold myself and be able to direct my own program is really exciting. It's been awesome having your guidance. So I'm excited to have you on and talk about that publicly.
Sure. And I think the key is we want an offering to be there for everyone. We have the owner group coaching or the owner one-on-one coaching. We had the pre-owner coaching last July, and now bringing on the student and another version of the group coaching is really making us well-rounded, that there is something for everyone. If you choose to invest in something like this, whatever boat you're in the dental world, you're going to fit into one of these.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that Share Practices has always been about providing information for you, regardless of where you're at, in your phase of ownership. Obviously, we focus on the pre-ownership segment, but we have been getting into the ownership segment and made a lot of progress there too. And I felt that, our offerings really weren't complete if we weren't providing an actual coaching structure for students. I didn't want there to be, this cost prohibitive wall for people, looking to advance themselves. I mean, I strongly believe that, when that moment clicks for you and you realize that practice ownership is right and you want to do everything you can to get there, I want Share Practices to be, providing avenues for that. So I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to flip it a little bit, Tyler. We're going to start with you because this is your show. So you should be the headliner. So first, I want to build up a little Tyler's credibility because I don't know if he has ever really gotten into this on there. Very humble guy, nice, genuine, doesn't like to brag. So let me brag on him for a little bit.
Yeah, Matt doesn't like that, by the way. That's not actually a compliment.
So the reason Tyler is so uniquely positioned to lead the student group coaching program, I want to give you a little bit of his student resume. So he's been an intern at Share Practices since his D1 year. He sent an email to George that literally floored George. I haven't gotten a chance to read it. Maybe I should reach out to try to read this. Apparently it's something else. He leapt off the page. You knew he was something special. So George brings him on as an intern his D1 year. He's now going into his D4 year. He's taken over 170 hours of CE. You know how many CE hours I took in dental school? 0. None. 170. He's been all over the country, Arizona, Florida, Northeast, Seattle, implant courses, Strupp and Brum. What other ones? I know there's a bunch more.
There's a laundry list of them. I have a hard time bringing them all back. Implant Pathway is probably one of my proudest, but there have been quite a few.
So he's extremely well traveled, extremely well knowledgeable, both clinical and in the practice ownership side of things. He For a long time, when you sent George a practice, it was mainly being evaluated by Tyler. So Tyler has now evaluated over hundreds of practices, giving his opinion, which I've seen many of his opinions, and they're always spot on, very thorough, very well thought out, thinking of the right things, asking the right questions, extremely well versed in how to evaluate practice. And now something he's currently doing, as he has his mailers out, working with recruiters, he's seen practices, he's met owners. He's actually, doing a lot of the stuff he has learned over the years. So he's, both knowledgeable and in it himself. Um, and with all of that, still at the top of his class in dental school. He mentioned he doesn't know his exact ranking, but we talked about his grades. He's close to the top. So he is far from let his responsibilities in dental school fall by the wayside. He's ahead clinically, even with this COVID stuff this year. So he's really a picture of maximizing your dental school experience, and someone I think we can all learn from. I wish I had a Tyler, that I could look up to when I was in school, because maybe I would have gotten off my butt and done a little more. So I think he's a real asset. So I wanted to give that intro before we get into more of the features of your program.
Well, Matt, that is more than I was actually prepared to hear. We had kind of a pep talk before this, and you mentioned the things that you wanted to say, and that kind of floored me as well. So I really appreciate you having all that to say, and also I have fear for the dental industry. If you had had a Tyler in dental school to motivate you and quote unquote get off your butt in dental school, there's no telling what you'd be doing right now, just given the progress that you've had in your time since graduating. So I really appreciate it. And just a few notes I had when you were saying that, I hadn't really realized that all the CE that I'd taken had really taken me to the four corners of the United States. Like, it just hadn't really put that in pictures. And it's interesting when someone kind of calls back to me the things that I've done. Even when you build a really big house, you know that you kind of just built it brick by brick. And sometimes you have to kind of take a step back and look at that house and see what you've done. And it really is amazing when you kind of just get things dialed in and you find your balance, and how to go through your day every single day and prioritize, especially, when you're in the gauntlet of dental school. When you really get that down, you're amazed as time passes very quickly, might I add. When you look back and see all the things you've done, it's hard to really comprehend how you were able to do it in such a short period of time. And personally, I have problems being proud of things like that, but I suppose I should be. So I really appreciate you reviewing that with me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're a testament to not letting excuses stop you. Like,
Right.
dental school is a busy time, so your time is crunched. You probably don't have much money. Your money's crunched, and you
Thanks
push
for the
both those
reminder.
aside. You push both of those aside and said, this is
Yeah.
what's really important to me to further my growth and to accelerate my path to where I want to go.
Right.
And you made it happen. Like, you didn't let those stop you. And I think that's super admirable. And I don't think that's very common. So
Yeah.
that's why I think you're uniquely positioned to lead this program.
Right. I mean, I think that I've been in very good company for a long time. I mean, having been friends and associates of George and Richard and yourself for this long. Having there's a term for, I think we actually both used to run cross country. Like, you have a rabbit, right? You have someone who sort of leads the pack and sort of keeps everyone up to a certain pace, and that can be very exhausting. But you guys have been my rabbit, and that's definitely helped me propel myself through school and not let dental school come in the way of my dental education, as George would put it. But you also mentioned that I have been able to, maintain my school life. Like, it's not a complete wreck. Top of the class is a little strong, but depending on how you look at percentiles, I suppose you could say I'm there. I am passionate about maximizing dental school. I don't believe that it is 100% a bad deal. I do think there's a lot to be learned there. And so I have balanced all these extracurricular things with still trying to have some excellence in dental school and knowing what is really going to benefit me the most and have that return on investment. Because for me, I've always looked at dental school as an investment. It's like you're taking out all this money with the prospect that one day there's going to be some return on all the things that you're learning. And so I think to look at that investment in and of itself as a bad investment and then start trying to do other things is kind of approaching it the wrong way, even though it's well-intentioned. So there are a lot of good things that come out of dental school. And I would like to stress, for all the things I've done outside, by no means am I trying to minimize what can be done there. And so in designing this program, that's been something that's really a principle, is that it's not just about providing a resource for group coaching for students to be prepared for ownership, but it's also for them to use this critical time in their formation as a dentist to really maximize their potential. Because there really is something to be said for being within that sort of safety net of the school system, where you can actuate all these principles of communication and case acceptance, and patient management, and you can try different, treatment methodologies and stuff and not really have to worry about screwing up your daily schedule because it's like the only patient you have for the day. Like there's a lot of things to be said for being in school and having that auspicious opportunity to go off and do 170 hours of clinical CE at student rate prices. Like there's a lot to be said for that. And so I want to help people, if they're D1s or D4s, I want to help them at whatever stage they're at, be able to maximize that time and get as much out of it as they can. Because if you have the mentality that your career is going to start once you graduate, in my opinion, you're coming out 4 years behind because you could have started so much longer ago and done so much more with your time. And so I'm really trying to, reach out in the past, find other people like myself and provide a more paved pathway to doing the exact same thing or, making it their own. So I'm super excited to be doing it. I think that a lot of the personal strides that I've made with coaching have been channeled into this program. And while I have modeled it off of, what you've been doing with your group coaching, there are some sort of unique aspects to what we're doing that I think are going to be really interesting for students specifically. So.
Yeah, and before this is a good lead into kind of more of the features of your program. Would you agree that the best part of all the CE you've taken is who you're in the room with after hours? Like that's how I feel and that's how this group is. Like now you have a group where you're a team and you're connected to like-minded students all across the country who are also going after similar goals, maximizing the dental school experience, learning as much as possible, positioning themselves for ownership soon after graduating. Now you're around them every week, every month.
Right.
Just like you going to the CEs, you're around these experts who have done the things you want to do. You're around chair practices who people have done what you're trying to get to. And that's really where you make the most headway. So the whole like mastermind feel of the group is, I feel, the biggest benefit you get.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't just go to CE just to go to CE and have a drink afterwards with people, but definitely that's on my mind. Like when I'm going through a course, like I'm trying to pick out people in the group that I can talk to that are going to be willing to share things with me, who I could have a working relationship with in the future. And that's where a lot of the advantages of going and doing these things really come from. And it's interesting because we're of course on the heels of the whole COVID thing and in-person CE and going off to, some conferences, not really a predictable thing right now, unfortunately. So I think it's really cool to be creating a resource where people can connect with others at, whatever time we designate, and be able to, tap the brains of other people because, truthfully, I don't think any of us, even in shared practices, are really terribly special all around. Like we all have our unique strengths, but, there's that idea of synergy. Like when you have that communication between people and we're tackling issues together, it's just so many heads working on that single problem. And it accelerates development so much. I mean, dental school is just it's such a ride and it's so quick. And I really do believe it's an auspicious time to like really make something happen. And if you don't have someone around you, if you don't have people to hold you accountable for the things you're hoping to do, it's very lonely. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to propel yourself forward. I don't believe that had I not had you guys to message, quite literally every day about what I'm doing and what I'm hoping to do and to motivate me to entertain possibilities I didn't even know were there. Like I just wouldn't have done all that I've done. Because when you're working on your own, you're paying more attention to the walls that you create for yourself. Like you're saying, oh, I don't have any money, so I can't go do that. I don't have any time. I'm busy. I'm tired. And that's the narrative that's in your brain 95% of the time. If you let even, 10% of your time be other people that are telling you, hey, you need to keep working on this, or this is your strength, or this is something you need to speak to. If you want to do this, you got to go out and do it now. And you need to set a deadline. You need to do this. Like without that sort of accountability, like your growth is just stunted so much. And to put up personal walls or even financial walls in front of that is something that I think is a travesty that a lot of people, myself included, have done many times. So I want to kind of save people the trouble of finding that out for themselves.
Definitely. I mean, I was that lonely dental student. I had
Right.
my close group of friends who I loved hanging out with, but didn't have the same immediate aspirations as I did.
Certainly.
So it was
Yeah.
it was all on my own, listening to podcasts, being lurkers on forums, and like that's not the best way to get to where you want. I
No.
mean, eventually, it's going to work out for most people, but if I can move that goalpost forward a
Yeah.
little bit, I'm going to do it. So we've kind of talked like some broad strokes
Sure.
about your program. Once you get into more of kind of details of what people can expect to get from this.
I've already talked a little bit about the accountability system. That's the most important part of group coaching. But also, the very start of the program, there's declarations of what you're hoping to get out of it. We want to know what your omega in this process is going to be. What position do you want to be in at the end of the program? And then everyone else is going to know that and be able to speak back to it. But much of it is similar to the sort of offerings that you've had in group coaching. We're going to be having bi-monthly group calls where we address the different topics. There's going to be equal parts of mindset and vision, helping people understand what it is that they want, why they're doing this, how they can create harmony between their own personal and professional development and visualize both as one and the same. There will also be more didactic aspects of it where we actually talk about the acquisition process and how you can engage in that in school. And then there will also be some sort of catered content for people at different stages of the dental school process to sort of, help them process all the information they're going through, manage their time and do so effectively. So it's sort of providing that sort of framework and formula for being an effective person in dental school and thereafter. So in addition to those grouply calls, we're going to have one-on-one calls with me. There will be, several of those that we're programming in. There's going to be a Facebook group for everyone to, post different content and articles that we can follow up on. There's going to be a group me for just sort of 24/7 conversations, similar to, the dynamic that we've had for so long, and several other things. So there's a lot of promises there, but it's absolutely deliverable. I've been spending a great deal of time on it, and I'm getting extremely excited and kind of mad that there wasn't already something in place, for me earlier on in my career, because I think that things would have been greatly facilitated.
Sure. That's awesome. One challenge I foresee, which is unique to your program and not so much my own, is
Yeah.
mine is pre-owners looking to buy a practice, a
Right.
very specific person in their career. Yours are students. There can be
Yeah.
in D1 or D4. How do you feel like navigating around the different participants in different school years?
Right. So I think that, the journey to practice ownership doesn't start when you graduate, doesn't start just before you graduate. It starts at any time you decide to engage in it. And there is so much headway to be done and so much work that you need to do for yourself, regardless of like whatever's going on. Like when I say we're going to cater things to D1, D2, D3, D4, I'm not saying that there's this prescribed pathway for getting into ownership that starts with D1 and there's these steps here and then there's steps here at D2. We'll certainly provide a framework for that if that's helpful for you. But I want to break people out of that sort of rigid idea where you have to wait on external circumstances to create that pathway for you. And I'm providing a framework for you to actually enact that pathway right now, like as soon as we start the program, if you haven't already started. When I say D1, D2, D3, D4, I understand that there are unique circumstances and challenges that come along the way in the process of going through school. And people are going to have some particular problems and things that they're struggling with. Maybe you're struggling to get through waxing. Maybe you just don't know how to get on top of that. I struggle with it myself. I would love to give some people some tips and tell them what actually helped and what didn't. Because I spent a lot of hours just waxing by myself and doing tooth after tooth and not wanting to show anybody because I was ashamed. That was stupid. That was a huge waste of time, right? And there's all kinds of moments and phases like that through dental school where if you have that group of people who are not judging you, who are a part of your process, and they're counting on you to be a part of their process. When you have them along the way, especially when they're coming from D1s, D2s, D3s, D4s, we have the ability to sort of come together and address those concerns on an individual basis as well. So that's kind of the beauty of a group, and I don't want anyone early on in their dental school career to think that this isn't for them, because it absolutely is. In fact, I think that people that don't think this is for them would be very surprised to find that it's actually very much suited for them, as was my experience with coaching.
Yeah, and we've certainly found through our ownership accelerator sales that a good portion
It's
were
huge.
D1s who bought it, and
Yeah,
even some incoming D1s.
incoming. That's right.
That's incredible to me.
Yeah,
So I think the appetite is there. I think even early on in dental school, people want to maximize their experience. They're paying a lot of money, I think it's been said so many times that it's understood that dental school isn't going to provide you all of the tools and knowledge that will really make a difference. They're going to teach you the things to get the paper. You're going to get the degree. That's
Right.
what dental school's for. Everything else, you gotta find other avenues to learn it. And this, I think, is such a perfect avenue for people who are searching, who have the aspirations but don't know where to turn and how to get these.
Right. I mean, there's definitely an option when you go to dental school to coast, and it may not feel like you're coasting. You may feel like you're turning gray every day. But there's the option to just sort of go through school, check the boxes, do the requirements, get your paper, and then you're a dentist. And that is the portrait of success the dental school will really paint for people. But the truth of the matter is, if you want something more than that, if you want to take charge of your career early on and maximize your opportunities, and get yourself closer to financial freedom and personal growth, you have to be willing to engage in more. And to say that you're not willing to go that extra mile because you're in dental school and there's all these things happening, I think that's something people really have to reevaluate. I mean, you consider how much money you pay per course that you're taking. I mean, I'm sure everyone can think of a few courses, if not just one particular one in their
You might
mind.
not
They're
want
like,
to break it down like that. It might drive you crazy.
yeah, exactly. Well, I did do that actually today. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit in the webinar we have coming up, which we haven't quite talked about, but we will. If you really look at what you're already investing in your future, because it's obligatory, the things that are out there that can really help you and are certain to have an ROI and are certain to actually get you to where you want to be. When you compare the costs and think about what they actually have to offer you, I think the decision on whether or not you should do it becomes a lot more obvious. There may be some other personal obstacles that people have, but I just think it's a no-brainer for a lot of people, especially our audience.
Yeah. And you just touched on the webinar. So we're releasing this episode on June 10th. So this morning you would have received an email blast from us with details on how to get to our webinar, which is a week from today, June 17th at 7 p.m. I will be on there. Tyler will be on there, both discussing the features of our program and really the overarching theme of the value of practice ownership and it has brought my life personally. What has it brought people we know through shared practices, and how our programs can really put you on a path to accelerate you to get there, and all the value that we're providing, which Tyler touched on a lot of points there. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in the program, please visit and watch next week. Or, honestly, if you just want some free information that's going to be interesting to you, it'll be worth your while for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really hope people tune into that. Again, that's on the 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk a good bit about, the advantages of practice ownership, which I know we harp on pretty much every week with 3 separate segments. And I don't think our audience is quite tired of it. They probably feel like they get it. But we will be also talking about some of the advantages of coaching and some of the personal strides that we've had. And I just really hope that people have their ears open to that, because, one thing that I've realized working with you and George is that, you guys are special, sure, to a degree. I mean, you guys certainly have some unique qualities and strengths about you. But I think what makes you so amazing, and what makes really anyone so amazing that is able to seek out coaching and maximize that opportunity, is that, there's a certain humility that has to be involved. Like, you have to be willing to acknowledge that you're not really where you want to be, which is an inherent property of having goals, right? Like, you're not where you want to be. And there are things available to you that could get you there a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. And you and George and myself included have now, taken that step towards saying, you know what, I'm going to sort of break down some of my own walls, whatever they may be. I'm going to engage in coaching. I'm going to take that leap of faith and see what it can do for me. And I think, in this very small, sample size, we've seen that there are massive successes that can come from it. And I really want people to sort of entertain that opportunity for themselves and just sort of take a moment and let go of maybe some of the obstacles that come up to them and just sort of entertain the possibility. Because I think when you really see it on paper, it's pretty attractive.
For sure. Couldn't agree more there. Any other features of your program you wanted to make sure we touch, or do we cover everything there?
Oh yeah. So one thing that's actually quite important that I don't think I mentioned is there will be every time we come on these group calls, we're going to have Hotseats. So hot meaning honest, open, transparent.
Is
And
that what that stands for?
I don't know. So anyway, I think I might have even seen it in a meme. Who knows? But what the hot seat really is everyone in the group, is gonna have these at some point, and we're gonna put one person in the group, quite literally on the hot seat. I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with the idea, and they're going to be answering to the group. We're going to have people declare what it is that they want out of this program, and be accountable for the steps that we're putting forth for people to engage in that. And that's something I really believe in. I mean, when you have other people holding you accountable to things that you've said are important to you, the onus then becomes on you to not only do it, but to be able to tell other people, yes, I did this today, I did this last week. This is what I want, this is what I'm doing. And you can have that ruthlessly critiqued by other people that will kind of give you these aha moments of why are you focusing on this so much when what you want is this. There are just so many things, especially in working with Ellen, your wife, that I've realized things that I thought were true and really believed were true just weren't. That I wasn't totally living in harmony with the goals that I had and the person that I hope to be. And so things like hot seats, things like the group calls, things like that sort of transparency that people are going to have with their own journey are really going to propel this thing forward. And it's going to be more valuable because of the people that are involved in it. So that's another thing that I'm really passionate about. This is not a program that currently I would see myself marketing to just any dental student. I think the people that are going to be coming to this and are going to be in this audience are coming from the shared practices audience for the most part. And we're all sort of cut from the same cloth. Like, we have a lot of the same ideas about life and the position of work in our life and personal and professional development. So that's just something I really want to make evident for what's being offered.
Awesome, man. I think you got a great thing brewing here. I'm excited to see how it goes when you launch in July. It's been super fun to help you in any way with this. I think all the ideas were your own. You created a great plan with this, and I think it's going to be a smashing success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen the things, the strides that have been made in previous iterations of our coaching programs, and I think the very same thing is possible, albeit a little bit more specific to the dental student condition. So I'm really happy to be doing that.
Nice. Yeah, let me go into mine a bit. I'll do
No, please do. Yeah,
do a little rant here.
we got to talking so much about mine. I almost forgot about yours. I got to, I got to
Don't
be
worry
honest
about
about
it.
that.
So my overarching thing with these group programs is I approach it like, what void in this person's career development is this filling? And
Right.
I think it fits in three different voids. First being commitment. So in my case, commitment to being a practice owner by this date. A declaration is a what by when. I will be a practice owner by January 2021. And putting that out there to a group allows other people to what's called stand for you. It's a very coaching word. It basically means remind you of what you said you wanted
Mm-hmm.
when you were in your essence, and not, when things get hard or you get tired or, you're willing to give up. You have people there to remind you, hey, you said you wanted this. What's going on? So it's a
Right.
much stronger
Absolutely.
declaration than just making it to yourself. That's one. Second big thing is the knowledge, the hows. Like, how do I do it? Um, I think that comes into play a little bit more in my program because we're dealing with, practice evaluations,
Of
maybe
course.
a tough situation or topic for people to quite understand. Do I need a buyer's rep? How do I do an LOI? When do I contact an attorney? How do I meet the seller? So there are a lot of hows in my program that I think are important to address.
Yeah.
The last being the execution, the actual going through with it. And that's a bit like the first one in the accountability, right? So you have a team of people who all have the same goal and will help you see yours through to the end, because it's gonna get hard at some point and you're gonna want to quit and you're gonna want to think, why am I doing this? But if you have people there with you reminding you, this is why you said you wanted to do it, and
Right.
this is when you said you were going to do it, let's go. Like, how can I support you in getting there? So those are the big three issues that I think this program fills, and the reason I think it delivers on accelerating you buying a practice. That's the entire point of the program. It's literally one single plan: buying a practice
Right.
when you declare.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and you articulated it well. One kind of aha moment I had is what you said was you're going to want to quit. Um, I have already experienced in my own coaching experience, like times where I felt like, what have I gotten myself into? I'm going to quit. And it's not the first time I've gone through that. Like throughout my entire life, there have been things that I've started and not finished. I've had this goal in the beginning that I sort of stated to myself, not really to anyone else. I didn't really hold anyone else accountable. And I, made steps towards it. And then, you sort of, you come into these roadblocks, and maybe that first one, you like double down on your belief and your goals, and like you jump over it and you're like, okay, great, I'm doing great. And then another one presents itself. And eventually, you just kind of get tired, and you're only accountable to yourself, and no one's going to know that you quit, and you just let it go. And that is that sort of teachable moment where there's other people that are outside of your situation that are not feeling that pain, that are there to sort of remind you of what you wanted originally and what you truly still want. And it allows you to sort of step back from yourself and say, no, this is part of the process. I have to trust that. And there's a great deal of trust and authenticity that needs to be there for that to happen. So I'm really glad that you said that.
Sure. And the other piece that I forgot to mention is the psychology of paying for something. Like investing money in something makes you more committed. Like for example, I mentioned on this show
Right.
that I've been doing the DJ thing. So I've had that passion for a while. In dental school, I used a free program, clicked around a bit and fell by the wayside. I made
Yeah.
one mashup of our medical professor saying funny things and
Okay.
mashed it up into a beat.
That's
Don't tell
fantastic.
anyone. Uh,
Yeah. You chopped and
so I,
screwed
right. So,
it.
anyways, I played around with a little, and then I stopped doing it, like because it was free. But this
Right.
past couple months, I bought a controller. I spent $250 and bought a controller,
Yeah.
and I've done more of it than I ever have. And the passion isn't any different. It's that I invested money in it is really the only difference.
Yeah.
Um, so like that's a key point. Like that's why this group isn't free. We want you to be invested.
Absolutely.
Um, so that's my rant on that. The features are pretty much exactly the same actually to what Tyler's programs is. The bi-monthly coaching calls, the periodic one-on-one calls. One thing we learned about the group that we launched in July that was missing was one-on-one time. We
Yeah.
did a purely group format. It led to a lot of messages, like personal emails to the coaches. And we thought a better setup would to be build in some one-on-one time so those questions can be answered, so everyone's voice can be heard if it's truly a unique question. um, Another thing that's changed from last time we did it, last time we had me, George, and Richard all leading the program, led to a little bit of continuity issues.
Hmm.
It was nice to have different voices, but at the end of the day we felt for the programs we're launching in the future going forward, it will be one coach only, so it will be me who's leading this program starting in July. I think that will allow for much more conformity and a singular voice that will allow for getting to the goals quicker. Another thing that we forgot to mention that is also part of Tyler's program is experts coming on. So for
Oh, of
me,
course.
I have one expert a month. We have a financial advisor, a lawyer, a broker, a mailer expert, which happens to be Tyler, uh, a lender, and a successful dental practice owner. So filling in some of the gaps of the knowledge that I mentioned before, some of the hows, some of the, it's a space for you to ask them questions, to hear what they have to say, and to really round out your whole knowledge base about how do I buy a practice and, all that goes into it. So I don't know, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot from the first go around. Um, we had amazing results from it as well. As clunky as it may have been, we had, I think, 5 people buy a practice in this by the end of the 6 months,
It's amazing.
and a couple more like soon after at the end. We're getting into it. And they're owners now, like they're in the seat as they declared, and it was really cool to see. Some of the testimonials you'll see on the webinar will speak to that. So I really feel like the program was a success, and we've this COVID has allowed me to really think about, okay, what went well, what went wrong, how do we improve this program to make it the best one we can, and I feel super strong about the product we're delivering.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to, sort of be a fly on the wall while that program was happening. I sat in on a few of the calls, and I saw a lot of the content that was being provided, and I saw I really saw everyone in the group in the very beginning, and I saw where people ended up at the end. And it was just astonishing what was able to be accomplished in that very short period of time. So I really commend you for putting that together and seeing it through and helping so many people. I'm sure that For those that have accelerated that, path to ownership and gotten themselves in there, they're not really regretting the initial buy-in that they had at all. And I hope to offer something kind of similar in my program. And you actually mentioned something that I haven't really talked enough about. And there will be some hows in my program. It's not just talking about where we're at mentally or anything like that. I mean, I will be going through some evaluation exercises. I do anticipate that people in the group will be getting some financials from potential sellers. So we may even talk about how they might be able to go through that. In addition, we're also going to be walking people through the process of developing your mailer. I mean, we're going to be coaching people through that. I can tell you that it's a lot more work than it seems like it can be. You can do it very easily and simply and quickly, probably not with the same results. So I want to really help people make their own premium mailers, whether they're necessarily ready to send them out or not. I think most people actually could send them out and see what comes back. There's nothing to really lose from it. So there will be some hows and some walkthroughs, and we'll be keeping people accountable for some tangible action items that are going to be happening week to week. So that will also be there. But yeah, I'm really glad that you came on today, Matt, to talk about your program and all the amazing things that have happened. And I look forward to maybe when we have a post group coaching talk and talk about the sort of strides that we're able to happen in my program. So it's just, I am so happy to be kind of working alongside you, and our programs are kind of launching side by side. They're sister programs, if you will, and I think we're going to experience similar progress.
Yeah, and you'll experience the same joy and pride that I got from seeing your participants get results. Like that's what it's
Yeah.
all about. Like when they get that first result, you're going to feel so proud as a
Right.
coach that you in some way help them get there sooner or easier. It's just such a joy. It's the reason I love coaching.
Yeah.
I want the best for everyone. I want to get where they want to go, and that's all we're in it for. Is what's in it for the participants, people signing up. So if you're a pre-owner or student, I really encourage you, June 17th at 7, come to the webinar, come with an open mind, determine if this is something for you. I guarantee you will not regret it.
Absolutely. And, I'd love that you kind of raise the point of what you're actually getting out of it as far as like personal satisfaction. I can say that in my time in share practices, I have seen the appraise that you guys have gotten from people whose lives you've changed, from people that have been motivated to advance their careers and get themselves into much more successful positions than they were before. And, since this whole segment has been running, the pursuit of ownership, I've started getting messages from people on Facebook almost every day, certainly a few times a week, where people tell me about differences that my segment in the very short time that's been around has actually made for people. And I gotta say that, like, of all the motivations I have for doing this, I think that is probably going to be the most rewarding one. When I actually see what people are doing, knowing that probably would not have happened were it not for the program, is pretty amazing. To actually be a part of actually generating that sort of change for people is probably at the end of the day the reason I'm doing this. It is a huge time investment, and there's a lot of effort, and I think every day about how we're going to be offering value to people. But I know the process, and I know the formula, and I know how we can deliver. So I'm just so excited to see what changes are produced from it.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited, man. This has been great. Thanks for having me on, sharing your podcast space with me as an intruder. So thank you for the platform.
Yeah, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. I could hardly call you an intruder. However, you did essentially change the name of my segment. Someone actually messaged me the other day and said, "So is it actually the Tolbear Pursuit of Ownership now?" And I was like, "Well, I suppose it is." But anyway,
one other thing to mention before
sure.
you wrap up: the webinar will be recorded. If
Yes.
you can't make it, it will be available for some time. That's probably the most common question I get. So good on me for remembering to address that. Yes, it will be recorded. We'll have it for, it won't be recorded forever, but it will be available for at least until the programs launch.
Yeah, of course. I mean, some people are not going to be able to make it. However, I do, really encourage people to be there for the live show. I love seeing what people are saying. We'll kind of ask the audience questions, and they'll kind of write things in as we're sort of going along. And it's just a lot of fun. It's an opportunity to sort of interact with the SP audience live and not just be listening to us and having this one-way conversation we're always having. So I'm really excited for it. June 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope you're all there. Matt, once again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
All right, man.